There she blows. It's March already. I own green clothes. I do, but nothing is fitting me currently, and I didn't buy a whole new wardrobe because I was just like, well, what's the point? I'm going to go wear it for a few months. I mean, you could argue that the point is that I have something green to wear for March, but that's not happening. I have got gold though. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I feel like I have a bit of a claim on Irish heritage. And I know that loads and loads of people say that because there's been a massive diaspora and there's loads of people who've gone over to the States and all that sort of stuff and never stepped a foot in Ireland. I understand all of this. I have quite a lot of great-great-grandparents from Ireland. I feel like I can own it. It's also quite a trendy thing to own currently. Whereas when the ancestors in question came over, there was like signs to say no Irish and you can't work here. So that's a bit of a flip, isn't it? It's not massively a point of pride for, I think, my generation, the Brexit generation, to be like, wait, I'm from the United Kingdom. It's quite easy when you've got like quarter Irish ancestry to be like, quite Irish. I have been there once, one time, which is really not ideal considering like next island over, we went to Dublin on the way back from our European leg of the tour. But I wasn't in the best mindset for it because my grandma just passed away and my cat had just passed away. And to be honest, compared to Europe at the time, we went from Istanbul and like that really, really southern area to Dublin in the winter time, and it was just grey, and I was like, oh my god, yeah, people are not lying when they say it's very, very rainy in the UK and Ireland. So it wasn't the best time, but I have set foot on the Emerald Isle. As I alluded to, a lot of my ancestors came over because of the famine, which potted story. There was enough food, but the wheat and the fancier vegetables and grains and stuff were being exported to England and further afield. So the poor people who basically lived off potatoes, and it was like one variety of potato, basically had no food. Different pockets of my ancestors came over, mostly to the UK, actually, also the UK, which is how they amalgamated and, you know, hello. But, much to my shame, number one, is too far away ancestry-wise for me to get an Irish passport, so that was quite upsetting. And number two, I know very little Irish language. I know Sláinte. I maybe know the odd word. I think there's more Irish in your English lexicon than you're aware of as well, so that helps. But I haven't put the effort into learning how the alphabet works properly. I tried, but not really hard, so I'm gonna have to do that at some point. But I figured because it's March, we should learn some basic Irish as well as actually learning the Irish counties, which right this second we're not going to attempt because that's hard, but we'll do it. I'm just looking up how to say hello, and I do know how to say that because in the last couple of years I put a bit of effort into learning it, so I do know more Irish than I'm letting on. The other important thing that's happening in March is my cat is 10. That's a big birthday. We need to properly mark that. I just don't know how to do it. Ideally she'd have more stuff added to her cat tree, but that's not happening immediately because it takes a lot of planning, and you have to drill into walls and check where wires are and make sure that the stuff that you get for her is actually suitable, because a lot of things that they sell, they're just not suitable for a cat. You want to make sure that they're safe. Even though she can freaking jump up fences, sometimes a little bit of wood just really gets her. So that has to happen in March. I know we're supposed to be learning some Irish, but I just remembered I have a dirty little secret, and I'm not sure whether I want to share it with you, but I'm gonna. Like, that, it would be horrible for me to go, oh, I've got a secret, and then just like not share it. Don't do that. I hate it when people do that. Just don't tell me you've got a secret. When we were in Dublin, I bought some Taytos, proving that still got air in. Smoky bacon's vegetarian. Rustle. I'm surprised these still all have the air in. I thought one of them got whacked in transit. Do you see that? They're about a year out of date. Now, I mean, best before dates is probably fine. The longer I leave it, the more out of date they'll become. And the point of me buying the crisps was to check whether I preferred them. We're going to use our classic list of things to learn. First up, we're going to say hello, which is Dia Gwitch. Dia Gwitch is saying hi to one person. If you're saying hi to multiple people, you say Dia Yves, which sounds a bit to me like Dia, because it's Dia both times, but Gwitch is your witch. Gwitch, Dia Gwitch, and then Dia Yves. Dia, all on the spine Eve. It's not automatic. The Gia part of this means God, and Gwitch means to you, right? But there's this whole bit about how one person says hello and then another person responds, and you just go down a rabbit hole of adding different religious figures. So you say Jiegwich, which means God to you, and then the response to that is Gia Ismueragwich, which is God and Mary to you, and then God and Mary and Joseph, etc., etc. So it's interesting how Catholic all of the language is, and the multi-person is God to all of you. I'm also seeing in my research, aka Googling, how much the pronunciation is different per region. So I'm probably going to jump around the region's pronunciation based on which YouTube videos I can find, which I probably normally do anyway without realizing. But now I'm starting to realize and feeling tired. Apparently in Munster you go Jowich, and then in Connacht and Ulster you go Jigwit. Just butchering everything today. Fun. Please is translated as with your will. Let the hole. Let the hole if you want to. La, 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 la. We're coming across this one person versus multiple people again. I'm going to allow it for the hello, but onwards we're just going to do the singular and put a pin in it. If you're going to do this yourself, just be aware that you need to look at the singular versus multiple people. Just stare at one person in the eyes as you're using these phrases. Be very careful. Thank you, singular, is gurama agat. And it literally means, may you have goodness, which is interesting. I don't know it's a bad way. I love how similar Scottish and Irish Gaelic are, because you don't necessarily think it. But Antailen, which is a really good BBC drama. I keep on about the BBC dramas. That was in Scottish Gaelic. And I picked up the odd thing from that. Not loads, but I feel like it's one of those things that you absorb the more you see stuff like that. And I appreciate that a lot, which is how I know a little bit Scandinavian. Irish, interestingly, also doesn't have a yes and a no. You answer with the verb. So again, you have to know the verbs. Maybe you can nod and shake. I think nodding and shaking works in Ireland. Like, you know, some places it's kind of the opposite. Not many. It's pretty universal. But I think you probably just use hand gestures at a push. Apparently a lot of times tar and kneel come up. That's am and am not. But it's not a direct yes or no. So take it with a pinch of salt. I love these because it feels like we're unlocking like a general language secret. So the pronouns I is me and you is tu. And tu is, it's in a few different languages. I think it's Spanish as well. So my brain is going, not sure. Pretty sure it's Spanish. We're going to trip ourselves up a little bit. So she is he, but she is she. So she and she. How are we going to do that? Because you're going to go she, easy peasy, Seamus. Oh, that's bad. That's really bad. But that might work. So it's she and Seamus, she and he. I think that'll work. I shouldn't stereotype, but that was absolutely automatic, wasn't it? And that is what these bridges are for. That's bad. I don't think we got as far as he and she in other efforts of this. So I am going to stop there because when it gets to we, there's a few ifs, buts and pixie dusts. So we're going to leave it at that. Now we're going to count to 10. As ever, 0 is very rarely on these lists. This is kind of the like wobbliest one. I've seen a couple. Some of them say anaj, some of them just say naj. So we're going to go with anaj because every other number has got a on it. All right, so we're going to assume that anaj is 0. Again, I'm worried about the regional pronunciation because I've seen one that says nil, which makes quite a lot of sense, like nilash. But again, it could be because I have not learnt the alphabet properly. It could well be that. We're just going to assume that the person actually saying it out loud as naj is correct. So anaj is 0. I don't know if we're going to remember anaj. Sounds a bit like nudge. I'm going to nudge it out of the way. I haven't got anything. I think I've got a fairly good bridge for 1. Now 1 is a hen, and it sounds a little bit like you're saying ahem. So you're getting people's attention for the first time. 2 is a do, and that's a little bit tricky because it's like do a dairy, female dairy, but that's almost number 1. Maybe a do's got 2 eyes. I'm not convinced I'm going to remember that. A hen, a do. 3 fantastically is a tree. I think I'm going to remember that. I'm not even going to bother. You could, if you are not going to remember it, a tree is 3 branches. 4 is a caher, and that's, I feel like I'm really emphasizing the H wrong. A caher. I'm trying my best. All right. Now, the only thing I can think of is a caher. It's 4 wheels. Unless you've got one of those 3-wheeled cars. I can't think of a bridge for this one. A cuig. A cuig is 5. A cuig. How about I'll grab a cuig snack with my 5 digits. A cuig. A cuig. maybe. That is a serious stretch. 6 is a shay. That's kind of close enough to 6. I'm not convinced I'm going to remember it. It's too short to really have a bridge. I had to restart my 1 to 10 video with a snack. I was just playing through the numbers. 4, a cat hair came up and I was like, oh, cat hair. 4 cat hairs. It's funny how different it is each time you read through it. Now, 6, a shay. I think that might be a shade more than 5. I'll have a quig sweetie and then I'll have a shade more than that. 7 is a schacht. The problem I have is that the spelling of this looks a lot more like 7 than a schacht. The bridge in my head isn't working. Schacht. What does it sound like? It's not creating anything in my head. I'm thinking shaft, like mine shaft, but it's not close enough for that. A schacht. A schacht. Maybe I'm just going to have to learn it. A schacht, a schacht, a schacht, a schacht, a schacht, a schacht. Math ain't mathing. 8 is a hocht, which... Hoch is German for high. A hocht. It sounds a bit like acht. A hocht. I feel like that one I can just know because it sounds enough like the German. I think I'm ing too much. 9 is a nay. A nay. Nay. As in it's not 10. Nay. Nay, 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 nay. A nay. It's not 10. I feel like I really emphasize that. Do you get it? Do you get what I'm saying? 10 is a de. A de. A de. A de. I don't know if it's just a pronunciation thing. I've had enough of counting a de. I'm not convinced many of those are going to go in. But hey, let's let them permeate and see. Now I know every other time we've done this, we've learned how to say Happy New Year. But the reason we're doing this in March is because it's St. Patrick's Day. So we're going to learn how to say Happy St. Patrick's Day in Irish. I know it's not consistent, but it's consistent enough. It's topical. It's topical and it's important to be topical. We need to roll with the times. So the way that you say Happy St. Patrick's Day in Irish, La e la Parek Sonadiv. I have got it literally down here and I'm surprised that I can remember this because bit of a goldfish right now. Bit of a goldfish. I haven't looked down in about 4 takes. That's pretty good going. Just checking that I didn't look down and it's fine. La e la Pyrex sonadi. It's fine. It's fine. Well done me. Pat on the head for that. Well done. I'm not even going to try to remember that. I think it was enough that I could say it a few times. It's topical, but you can learn it each time. It's fine. You know, I put all the resources that I've used to help pull together this video in the description box. But Gale to Go for goodbye, I'm actually really impressed by because they're using full sentences and examples and just speaking in Irish at you, which I think is super, super important for actually properly learning it because you get the context, you get the cadence, etc., etc. And also they know what they're on about, or at least they're giving a really blimmin' good impression like they know what they're on about. But goodbye is slán, and we're going to remember that because it's like sláinte. I don't think it's necessarily the same meaning, but sláinte is cheers and slán's like goodbye. First half of cheers, you kind of go wait goodbye. That's how I'm going to remember anyway. It's easier than some of the other things we've tried, partly because I've done a little bit of this before and I'm just mimicking words, and maybe they're shorter because sometimes, you know, when it gets to the longer ones, if it's not a cadence I recognize, I struggle a little bit. So I think that's part of it. I've done a little bit more groundwork possibly with this than some of the others though, like the 0 to 10, the Happy St. Patrick's Day, that sort of stuff didn't necessarily feel like it was natural. Jigwitch I have heard before. I'm gonna have to watch this back. They say you're supposed to do things 21 times for memory to properly kick in, and I've not done this 21 times. So I remember May to say she. Wow, look at me. Practically fluent. I know. My ancestors are looking down going, oh, this is embarrassing. I'm sorry. I think what we should do next week, because I've been putting it off, is eat the Taytos as we learn the Irish counties. I think we'll do that next week for St. Patrick's Day. Oh, these have been in my drawer for a year. Okay, well, slán, see you next week.